Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today's message is commitment. What does commitment look like? I did a mastermind preview Zoom call with Peter Crone, who is a very well-known figure in the spiritual space, and he has kind of like 4 pillars of your abundant life: health, wealth, purpose, and relationship. And he was talking about these 4 pillars of your life, and I have the 3. Like I've been healthy since choosing myself and choosing the right people in my life, choosing the right things to do in my life, things that are what I want to do, not holding resentment or grudges or hatred or resistance or invalidation, all of which creates sickness. It creates dis-ease in your body, dis-ease in your body. And so the health portion of that is like, I've been fine. I haven't been sick for quite a while now, and I don't ever really experience pain unless I'm resistant to something, and my body tells me that pretty instantaneously. But I do believe that all sickness or disease is the dis-ease in your body. Either you're holding on to something, you're holding on to resentment, or you are doing something that is not true to who you are, or you're in a relationship that is not true to who you are, any of those things really. But the health aspect I've been really well in, as well as the purpose aspect. I had some confusion around this, but I was trying to decide whether to pursue spirituality or music, because I'm a vocalist. I've been a musician and vocalist my entire life, and I felt like I had to choose between the two. But I just recently came to the realization that I don't have to choose between the two, and both are pretty synonymous. Music or singing is the same, very much in spirituality, of connecting to yourself. You're connecting to your breath, your voice. Your body is quite literally an instrument. And so yeah, I've just realized that I can do both, and my purpose in doing both is to just spread love, kindness, compassion, positivity, empowerment, all of those things that, everything you want in this entire world will come into fruition as long as you're doing it with the right intent. And I say that because my whole purpose in making these videos every day and sharing my journey and my messages with you, and or sharing singing videos, is to spread light, love, positivity, and just be an example that you yourself can step into your power at any point in your life. It all begins with a choice. And then the 3rd pillar being relationships. At this point in time, I feel like I have the most beautiful, loving, expansive relationship I've ever had in my life. My boyfriend is amazing, and I talk about him frequently, but we are both so incredibly devoted to our personal growth that is also reflected in our relationship. And so we just have an amazing relationship. I have a great relationships with my family and friends, and then the last one is wealth. And wealth is has been one that I have not been well with. I grew up being given the idea that you need to work hard. You need to work hard for money. It doesn't come easy, and that, we just don't have the money, or are not deserving of the money. All of these stories that I've kind of realized and been told throughout my childhood and into my adult life of working multiple jobs to pay bills and thinking that money is supposed to come from effort and hard work and you know, all of these things, which is just not true. Money does not have to come from those things unless you believe it does. And so I feel like I have been, over the course of like the last like 6 months, really working on myself, growing spiritually, growing internally, expanding, transcending, transforming, healing, doing all of the things, right? And for some reason that wealth aspect isn't there. And the funny thing is, there's two ways to look at it. Wealth or abundance is what you make of it. And then there is wealth that is monetary, money, actual money. So, you know, I've been very grateful in how abundant I am just with everything I already have. I don't need my bank account to reflect my abundance, but something doesn't align for it to. And I was having this kind of confusion and this question while on that mastermind call this morning. And I realized that I was telling myself these old stories about money. You're supposed to attain money from working hard. You're supposed to attain money from putting in the sweat and the hours and all these things that you don't prefer. You're supposed to, or that money is scarce. The idea that money is scarce. Money is not scarce. The idea that only specific people deserve money, which is also not true. I believe that the universe is energy. The universe is frequency, vibration. And so you are that which you attract. And some part of me over the course of the last few months was still trying to figure out why I wasn't attracting money. And I realized that my lack of money, not of abundance, those are two very different things. I feel very grateful in everything I have, but I mean more specifically if we're talking about wealth or money, for the sake of, I'll just say money. If we're talking about money, money felt lacking to me. I still felt supported by the universe. I still, like, I could pay bills on time, or I was supported in different ways through different people, and then eventually that wasn't the case. And then so I just had this question of like, what is going on? Why is there this misalignment? If I am everything I attract, and I feel like I've been doing the healing and all of this, why isn't money showing up for me? All the three things were, and I was like, I don't understand. But I realized that I was both telling myself old stories in regard to money, and my commitment to money was my commitment to myself. And what I mean by that is I would make decisions, but they weren't in complete commitment to myself, which is funny because it was me committing to not 100% committing to myself. Because if you commit to anything, you commit to it in some capacity, just not the way you prefer to. So I have spent the last almost 20 days back home at my parents' house, away from my boyfriend for the holidays, and I've just had so much opportunity to really dive into more me individually and learning and all this stuff. And I realized that, like, originally when I was going to come here, I was spending a month here, and I made decisions about what I wanted to do. I wanted to exercise every day. I wanted to do 10,000 steps every day. I wanted to eat this. I wanted to not drink or be sober, all of those things. And I would do it and then I would stop. I would do it and then I would stop. And so I wasn't committing, and I couldn't understand, like, why is it that I'm not, like, I'm telling myself this, but then it's not actually happening. And so today I just had the realization that, wow, like I really don't commit to myself as much as I think I do. And that shows up in the same way with money. Money doesn't commit to me. Money does not stay with me. And I'm not saying in the saving sense. I don't anymore believe in the idea of saving money, because I think it's just not necessary. You never know when you're gonna die. So I personally believe in not saving money, but it was the idea that I'm not receiving a consistent source of income or things of that nature that in that sense make money not committed to me because I'm not committed to me. And so I had that funny realization, and it's ironic that, like, you're committed to not fully committing. And so I realized that today, and I was like, wow, like obviously all of these things have been happening for a reason. I don't do the 10,000 steps a day to show me that I'm not committing to myself. I think I've had a glass of wine twice in the last like 3 weeks, but my hope was that I wouldn't like drink at all, and I wasn't doing that either. Or smoking. Like I used to smoke weed a lot years ago, and that was something I let go last year, and it was still not complete commitment to letting that thing go, out of either fear, a story I'm telling myself, whatever the things. But yeah, so I wasn't committing to myself, and I was like, that's so interesting. Now I can play around with what it does look like to commit to myself fully, and from that point forward, I will create a reality that reflects that. I truly believe that. And so to anyone watching this, the message being commitment. What is self-commitment look like? What does self-devotion look like? My boyfriend, I think he said he watches Courtney, who is from the Divinely Aligned channel. She channels Zero. I think he said she said this, but it's not self-control, it's self-devotion. So what is self-devotion to you? If you make a decision, are you committing to that decision, or are you committing to not committing to that decision? Either one is a commitment, but to what degree is your commitment? What does it look like to show up for yourself? What does it look like to make the decisions? Like, I think I still had a lot of stories around having to do the exercise to lose weight to look a certain way, or having to not smoke or drink because I wanted to be both healthy for myself, but like these were habits that I was also tying to my worth. Like, oh, I feel like if I do this, then I'm doing something bad or something wrong, which is not true. I don't believe that anything we do is right or wrong. It's all just choice. But I tied specific actions to a meaning, and I also tied the idea of committing to these actions to a meaning. And so there is a reason I couldn't commit to these actions, because I wasn't even committing to myself. And so what does it look like to commit to yourself? Committing to yourself looks like, to me, doing what you want to do, what is exciting, what is in alignment, what drives you, what is a passion of yours that you want to fulfill every day. What does it look like not to entertain the people in your life that are not contributing to you positively? What does it look like to separate yourself, if you need to, from those situations, those people, any of those things, right? And so having that realization that I wasn't completely committed to myself, I can now look at all the places that I would like to commit to myself even more. What does that look like? I had an issue with like scrolling on social media, and I found that like I was scrolling on social media for averaging like 3 hours a day, and then like one day almost, I think, like 8 hours or something like that. And that was my distraction of myself, my lack of self-devotion to myself, to be like, hey, you know, we've been doing this for a while, let's do something that feels more aligning. And you know, every decision you make, look at where it comes from. I now no longer smoke at all, and I very rarely drink. I don't prefer either anymore, because smoking is essentially a way to escape your reality. And then drinking, if you need to get drunk, what is it you're not honest with yourself, or what behaviors or actions do you exhibit when you're drunk that you can't when you're sober? So both of those don't feel in alignment to me, because if I was always honest with myself, always doing what I want, and you know, I wouldn't need substances I just wouldn't need them. I wouldn't need them to function. I wouldn't need them to be honest. I wouldn't need them to live any differently than I would with them. And so I've now made the decision, you know, if I ever drink anything, it's very little at that, because I just don't prefer. At first, I don't need it, and second of all, there is no part of me that is any different than the me that is sober. So why do I need that permission slip to act differently or be more honest, or, you know, it just doesn't make sense. And so just so much of our lives, so much of what we're taught as humans is finding all the distractions, getting drunk, getting high, watching TV, scrolling on social media. Everything is a distraction. Like, absolutely everything is a distraction. What does it look like to choose ourselves so that we don't live with distraction all the time? And that looks like so many different things. Like, you could just be distracted by having people in your life so much that you don't know how to be alone. You can be distracted so much by watching TV all the time that you don't know how to sit with your mind and allow your mind to, you know, to just be a space for you to explore it. So what does it look like to stop distracting yourself? If you want self-commitment, self-devotion, how can you stop distracting yourself? How can you align with yourself? What is your excitement? What is what you know will grow you? You know, I've began to read since being in a relationship, and I used to hate it. Now I don't hate it, because I know, I see how empowering it is to read and to, you know, realize information that I already knew within, but needed to be remembered within me. So I like to read. I like to watch videos about spirituality. I like to grow internally. I like to do the workshops and all that stuff to reveal to myself where I'm still in my own lack and limitation. I like to sit with myself. I like to meditate. I like to dive into what is, if I have any resistance or invalidation or pain or anything, or defense, you know, all of these things, what am I needing to look at that my body is telling me to look at? Because that is the stepping stone into reaching your power even more. It begins with that. It begins with listening to your body. It begins with understanding that any pain or dis-ease in your body is your resistance to something. And we are all sensory beings, you know, we all live through our five senses or less. But we were created to have a human experience on the basis of sensory experiences. So if you're not listening to yourself, you're not listening to your body, you are quite literally resisting your human experience. If you're tired, if you feel any disease, any pain, any suffering, any of those things, you are resisting something that you're not willing to look at. And it begins with the decision to look at it, to accept it, to allow it, and to be curious. You know, you can look at something with judgment or you can look at it with curiosity. Which one will you choose? One is going to be so much more beneficial to you than the other, right? So I hope whoever this video found, it found you for a reason. What does it look like to self-commit? What does it look like to self-devote? What does it look like to be so honest with yourself that you don't know yourself any other way? Like, I don't know the me I was years ago. I used to lie all the time. I was so not in my present moment, so dishonest with myself, with others, with my physical reality. And I had disease, I had pain, I had all of these things, and I don't invalidate feeling any of that. Like, I've gone through abuse and disease and all of those things, but like, you can either use it to springboard you into a negative reality or a positive one, and it's your choosing. I made the decision to learn from every experience I've ever had, thus putting me here, you know, to the point where I feel so fulfilled in my life already and so grateful and abundant, even if the money doesn't look like what I want it to, but I know it will. And so I don't want to invalidate anybody's pain or suffering. But being the creator of your reality means taking responsibility for it. How can you take responsibility for it? I take 100% responsibility for everything that's ever happened in my life, because either I consciously chose it or I unconsciously chose it. Either way, I still chose it. Either way, it was my soul's path. Either way, I was meant to learn something from it. So when you look at life that way, it just becomes that much more easy, that much more flowing, that much more accountable. You can live so effortlessly in happiness and abundance and peace and joy and love and all of the things if you allow yourself to. So with that, what does it look like to commit to yourself and really sit with yourself? Take time, as much as time as you need. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself. Really, really look at that. And yeah, that is today's message. I hope you enjoy it, or if you don't, that's fine too. But this message and every message I make every day means the world to me, because I get to learn something new about myself every day. And I hope the same for those that this video finds. So with that, thank you so much for watching, and I wish you a lovely Saturday.